All right, everybody, we'll get started with our November 8th, 2023 regular council meeting. I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the land that which we're gathering on is the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. Councillor Cole Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a statement I wanted to read. This was regarding Transgender Day of Remembrance and an acknowledgement of that. Monday, November 20th is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. On this day, we honor the memories of transgender people who have tragically lost their lives due to acts of violence and discrimination. This Day of Remembrance serves as a solemn reminder that we must continue our efforts to support a safe and inclusive community for all where hate has no place. Everyone in our community is entitled to live authentically and without fear. We reject acts of discrimination and will demonstrate our support for equity through our policies and actions wherever possible. We'll now pause for 1 minute of silence to honor and reflect on all the members of the transgender community who have had their voices stolen from them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cole Hamilton, for that. And I'd like to also acknowledge that it's Métis Week from November 12th to 18th, the time to celebrate Métis culture and history in BC and Canada, including the importance of Louis Riel as a political leader and advocate for justice for the Métis people who continue to strive for rights and recognition to this day. The Métis are distinct Indigenous people with a unique history, culture, and language, and a way of life, and are one of the 3 recognized Indigenous people in Canada, along with First Nations and Inuit. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action directly reference ways to address the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation for Indigenous peoples. And there will be a flag raising ceremony at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, November 14th at City Hall in recognition of Métis Week. And I'd just like to mention that I'm very proud of my council and the staff at City Hall for always looking for opportunities for reconciliation. And Councillor McCollum.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to announce Indigenous Veterans Day is observed today, November 8th, in Canada in recognition of Indigenous contributions to military service, particularly in the First World War, Second World War, and the Korean War. Indigenous peoples have served in times of war and peace for more than 200 years, since the War of 1812 to Afghanistan, and many continue to serve. For many years, that service was often overlooked and underappreciated. Many Indigenous people also currently continue to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces, in Canada, and on operations around the world. They continue to uphold the proud legacy of service of past generations.
Thank you, Councillor McCollum. Really appreciate that. And is there any introduction of late items? Seeing none, we'll move into adoption of minutes for October 25th and 30th. Excellent. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I will declare them accepted. And we'll move into delegations, and we start with the Comox Valley Arts, talking about Duncan Commons. So if you'd like to come up and press the microphone there. I believe we have Jennifer Casey and Twyla Skinner.
Thank you, Council, for hearing our delegation. I'm Jenny Casey, the Executive Director of Comox Valley Arts, and I'm here with Twyla Skinner, the General Manager of the Comox Valley Farmers Market. We are here to ask Council to consider closing a section of Duncan Avenue to vehicular traffic for a portion of next summer, should create a much needed public gathering space. This project has been an ongoing effort for many years. It is a popular idea among community organizations, local businesses, and residents. It is currently understood as Duncan Commons, but we're calling it the Duncan Avenue Pilot Project as a placeholder, understanding that the framework of the urban commons should be reconsidered through a decolonizing lens. While there are two of us here presenting, we are a collective group of values-aligned organizations, including the DCBIA, the Gallery, the Chamber, and the event production group Elevate the Arts, that support this idea in principle. Since submitting this presentation deck, we also have accessibility groups, seniors in support of this project. We've talked to the city's Department of Public Works and the Department of Recreation, Culture, and Community Services. This pilot project helps the city realize its goals set out in the OCP related to the 2016 Downtown Courtenay Playbook, which was approved by Principal and Council on September 6, 2016. The Downtown Courtenay Playbook is a vision for many improvements to the downtown core. It lists public space on Duncan as a priority catalyst project, recommending that it be done early on as a way of spurring more of the initiatives set forth in the plan. The pilot can help Council meet other adjacent priorities in the OCP related to food security, sustainability, and designing public spaces that improve the quality of life for Courtenay residents. The pilot also answers to the findings coming out of the city's strategic cultural plan, including needs identified by the community in the What We Heard report, such as more cultural spaces, diverse and affordable cultural programming, and the development of cultural tourism. One of the draft directions in the cultural plan is to develop more accessible cultural spaces. Specifically, the drafted direction recommends prioritizing initiatives or upgrades that provide more space for live performances, community arts programming, rehearsals, and artistic creation. Some of the recent and past activation projects are listed here on this slide. Hope you guys can read it. It's a little small. Duncan Ave sees a good amount of effort from organizations to activate the space, but physical improvements and investments are desperately needed. By making improvements to Duncan Avenue through a pilot, we can continue to build the heart of downtown, envisioned by the Downtown Playbook. As a wide and empty street, it's important to note the sheer amount of human power that it takes to activate Duncan. It takes Herculean efforts on behalf of community organizations to make Duncan feel alive. This pilot will improve all of the work that's already happening on Duncan and provide space for new opportunities for the community to come together. To give you a sense of what's already happening, I'm going to pass it off to Twyla.
Thanks, Jenny. Many organizations, including the Farmers Market, have been providing programming in downtown core, including Duncan Avenue, for a long time. Although the Farmers Market has been in various locations since 1997, it is called Duncan Avenue Home for the past 2 years. Market Days, which is a large one-day community event with shops, vendors, musical acts, and family activities, has been happening for 51 years. Other events, such as the Halloween and Christmas parades, have also used Duncan Avenue as part of their events. We have seen moments of beautiful community building on Duncan Avenue this summer through the summer street markets. It has provided a glimpse of what the public space could look like on Duncan. Speaking on behalf of the Farmers Market, who has changed locations for its midweek market many times over the last 26 plus years to accommodate things such as power, traffic flow, expansion of the market, and the needs of the business community, to name a few, there is a need for a space in downtown Courtenay where community groups are able to have consistency with programming logistics. We know the potential of the space to function for festivals and community celebrations like Moonlight and Magic, Pride, and Elevate the Arts. Beyond making public events brighter, bigger, and more vibrant, there are social, environmental, and economic arguments to support the public space on Duncan. Programming such as the Downtown Courtenay Summer Street Markets can have a significant economic impact to the downtown business community as well as the Comox Valley. This year, this market was part of a larger economic impact study conducted by the University of Northern British Columbia and the BC Association of Farmers Markets. The preliminary numbers indicate that there is a $260,000 direct benefit and a $587,000 community or spillover benefit, totaling an economic benefit of $847,000 annually. Depending on the market day, there may be an estimated 1,000+ customers attending this 3.5-hour market, with the large majority of these customers attending the market for the first time, so day trippers and tourists.
And when you zoom out and you consider other municipalities and cities, the data supports the economic benefit of creating pedestrian-only corridors across the board. The key thing for this type of public space to be successful is smart planning, good design, and collaboration. We have enough time between now and the summer to not just do this, but to implement it well. We are asking City to close Duncan from 5th to 6th to vehicular traffic while keeping the alley open for a portion of the 2024 summer. This public space would require investment to be done successfully. We need shade structures, urban furniture, and a temporary stage for performers. A component of this is infrastructure. We need to improve the electrical box on Duncan to include receptacles that allow food trucks to connect. This prevents pollution and noise. We also need access to water. So today we have a two-part ask of council. Part one is for the closure of the road and approval of a pilot. And part two is the time to work with city staff to work through the details, including the infrastructure components. As a room full of people who are committed in various ways to improving community well-being, we are sure that the many reasons why a public space on Duncan would benefit Courtenay are clear to you. But let's add a few more to your list.
The city needs a public gathering place for both passive use and public events. This pilot would ease and make safer the setup, tear down, and planning of production of existing events. This pilot aims to reduce barriers to other groups using the space by eliminating the need to request a road closure. The effects of climate change, such as extreme heat, which is only exacerbated by the large paved areas with no shade, wreaks havoc as there is nowhere to shelter from the sun. By including shade structures in this pilot, these concerns can be mitigated.
The really important part that we need to emphasize again here is how important a pilot is to the success of a long-term project. 10 years ago, I wrote a thesis on placemaking interventions in cities and what made them succeed or fail. My research showed that community engagement, design, experimenting, and employing an iterative approach is the best path to success. In short, it can't be done top-down, but it also doesn't have to be super expensive. We've seen examples in cities that employ architecture students to design modular urban furniture, or we can think about what mobile amenities we already have that can be repurposed for a pilot. We do believe that shade structures are a critical step, but we've spoken to Public Works and understand the costs to be workable within a budget. So, how would this work if a pilot were to be approved? Our growing working group of different stakeholders can continue to meet and collect community buy-in, thoughts, and concerns. There are other folks certainly that need to be at the table as the details are worked out. We can host community engagement sessions and garner excitement for the project. Our group can support city staff to determine suitable options for temporary furniture and shading. The programming of the space can be done in partnership with the city's already in place booking system. Striking a balance between providing a public space that's welcoming to all members of our community while acknowledging community members' concern for safety can be done through partnering with service providers. There are other systems already in place, overnight security and bylaws that can protect the space from vandalism and damage. But this is also an opportunity to bridge some of the divides in our city and quite literally bring people together. We believe that a public space could be a chance to knit back together some of the unraveling divisions in our community, or at least start. I want to end by asking you to imagine next summer on Duncan Avenue, walking under brightly colored shade sails, feeling compelled to sit and have a cup of coffee with a friend while watching some kids play on a painted obstacle course, people meeting for lunch, the library running a pop-up reading event, a group of teenagers gathering for an outdoor drawing lesson, Bob Wells playing a game of chess with Wendy Morin. For this to be successful, we have to get started now. We need to be able to work together. So thank you so much for hearing our delegation, and thank you for your consideration.
Fantastic. It's like you guys had that all rehearsed. You got all the points in there. And I believe the mayor of Comox has challenged me to a game of chess as well. So maybe it'll be a running gag here. I do love playing chess. So that's great. A fantastic presentation, and I'll pass it over to Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. It's definitely an initiative that has come up and been discussed over the time that I've been on council. And, certainly there's always ongoing imagining and what's the word I'm looking for? Brainstorming of how we do placemaking in our downtown and how we do it more in a people focused way, and creating spaces that people can spend more time gathering. And there's more to downtown than shopping, although of course that's an important aspect of it. So I really appreciate seeing this come forward as a proposal, and I'm keen to see if we can make this a reality by next summer. I think what you've laid out seems very reasonable and is a great step in looking at whether or not this is something that we do seasonally or in a more permanent way. A pilot's always an ideal first step, I think, especially when it is something like this that doesn't need major changes to infrastructure, and that we can see how it works. And in a way, we have kind of been piloting this on the Wednesday afternoons when we have had the street closed. I only had one question, and that was around, it said a partial for part of the next season. Does that mean that it's not proposed for the entire summer? What exactly did you mean by the timing? I guess ideally, if this proceeds exactly how your working group has been envisioning it, like what would that look like?
We would need enough time to be able to collect the data that we need to support a long-term project. So it can't be so short that we don't have enough time to do that collection. And our working group has thrown around 2 months that we haven't decided on what would be ideal. We just know that 1 month would likely be too short, 4 months would likely be too long. So yeah, we know from our work with the summer street market that attendance drops off when school goes back to session. So we feel pretty strongly that the pilot may close, to align with school schedules.
Yeah, that makes good sense to me. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, and thanks again for the presentation.
Thanks, Councillor McCollum and Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thank you for picking up the torch on this. Obviously, really exciting. You're probably well aware the roots were set many, many years ago. I was wondering who's on your working group from the BIA.
The BIA supplied a letter of support. So the new executive director, Greg Chadwick, has gone around and talked to every business that's on Duncan Avenue before authoring that letter. So everybody's been made aware, and there aren't any major concerns from BIA right now. There's just one question from the florist about access to the deliveries on Duncan, which I think is absolutely workable.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like you're checking off all the boxes. So yeah, well, I'm really excited. I imagine there's huge community support for this, and I'm looking forward. I know there's a motion coming up in this meeting. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Frisch. And attending the DCBIA meeting the other night, it was a very lively but very positive conversation around this potential. So it was great to see the work behind it. Councillor Morin.
Great, thank you. First off, I have many talents, including cooking, art, community theater, but chess is definitely not one of them. In fact, I think my 6-year-old grandson can beat me in chess at this point, although we haven't had a game in a little while. I was still beating him, but I think that's probably changed. But in all seriousness, this is a really exciting proposal. Obviously the kind of thing that I get excited about. A couple of questions. I guess in terms of the infrastructure, because of course we're going to be going away and getting more information and, not making a decision today, obviously, but is there any sort of minimum infrastructure that you would suggest if we aren't able to kind of deliver on all of it? It seems like the shade is very important. I know that with these heat domes, shade is an ongoing issue everywhere throughout the city. So that's my first question.
That's a really important question. Yes, we think that there is a risk if we don't do everything that we need to make this a successful pilot, that it will be viewed as not a good public space, and the community will see it as a potential waste of resources. So there is there's a line that we're trying to determine of what is what we need to make it a successful project. Shade structures are one of those things, and that comes from experience at the market and just knowing like where we're headed with climate. Right? It's not going to get any cooler. And the infrastructure here that you see on this slide, we need something called a 50 amp 4-wire to be able to hook up the food trucks. So 2 of those would be ideal. And we don't have access to water. Water is just, I think, a really standard thing that we should be able to provide. Right now, we have to go ask Glenn Sanford if it's okay if we can get water from the gallery. And I will also say that it was Glenn who suggested that you play the game of chess in my remarks there. So you can blame him.
Very cheeky. Well, I don't want to talk about the upcoming trivia game, but Courtenay Council does have a pretty good standing in trivia. Anyway, not from contributions from me necessarily. The other question is, do you have anyone in mind at this point in terms of research data collection? Like you'd mentioned that you've had sort of partnerships with university, et cetera. Is that a hurdle that you feel, or something that would be easily addressed?
So excited about that. I feel like there's lots of potential for capstone projects within universities for students to jump on board with something like this. I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for my master's, and there's always kids looking to have their dreams realized. Like architecture students it would be fantastic to be able to do that. And I'm sure that the University of Victoria would have some good folks to talk to on staff, faculty.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Morin, and Councillor Jolicoeur.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Really fit it all in there, and appreciate the working group coming together. It's really nice to know that there's something generative happening in our downtown core with ideas and excitement, and something that will really provide something for everyone. Most of my questions were actually asked by my colleagues, but the one thing I think on the last slide, you talk about security and partnering with service providers, and I know that in some of the conversations we've had around the dynamics of everyone that uses our downtown spaces, and I'm wondering if you can speak to, I think you kind of insinuated some of your experience with community spaces in the past, but I'm wondering some of the programming, given that you're with the Comox Valley Arts, what are some of the kind of programming that you could envision would be something that would bring community together? And you spoke about sowing some of that division. I'm wondering if you can maybe give us some insight into what you have as some ideas.
I think the community engagement part is the most exciting for me with this project. Partly because the ideation, the design can all come from different people coming together with their own thoughts. And there's a lot of beautiful ways that we can do that. That are passive, but are also active. Comox Valley Arts, we serve the whole community. This is well within our sort of programmatic umbrella, and we do have an advocacy part of our work. So I'm committed to continuing this project as part of the regular stream of what we deliver. I also am really fortunate to work with a community engaged artist, Juliana Bedoja. So we both bring a certain amount of skill sets around community engagement here. I don't have any ideas off of the top of my head about exactly what our community engagement projects would be, but a lot of them would be design forward. So yeah, it's the piece that really gets us really excited over there, for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Jolicoeur and Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks for bringing this to us. I think it's, as many people have said, this is something I think many of us have wanted to see happen for a long time, and just appreciate your initiative bringing it together. I just wanted to ask a bit about it's the pilot that's being proposed, but how you would assess this, how the pilot fared. And it seems like you have literally graduate degrees in this kind of thing, so you may well know what the metrics are and how you'd go about obtaining them. But it would be really useful for us at the end of next summer to be able to look back at some indicators that tell us that hopefully it was or
Yeah.
runaway success. Some of that you can just see by just walking downtown and just seeing what the mood is, but I'm sure there's more complexity than that.
Yeah, I think having the community establish a rubric, like it's not top down again, it's something that is generated as a group. And having the time and inclusive voices. What constitutes success is different for one person to the next. Those conversations this is all super important stuff that we need to have as a group conversation. And again, like I believe that we have the time now because it is November, but as we all know, it gets, time goes fast. So we're going to be, before you know it, close to the summer. And a lot of these pieces that need to come together with the infrastructure components need to be planned now and over the next couple of months. And part of that is around what success looks like. And that conversation should happen as a group, I believe.
Okay, well, that's a really important discussion. It's great to hear. It's something that's going to be underway soon. So thanks again for all of this.
Excellent. I think that might be all the questions. I know I spoke at length with Twyla the other day, and I can't say how excited I am having been part of the art gallery when it moved in 2005, and this was a big part of that discussion at that point, and it felt like there was a big flame, and maybe it's just been a candle, but it's great to see that somebody's picked up the torch and is moving on, because I think it's going to be an absolute success, and really look forward to any reports and stuff that we have kind of updates as we get into the summer. So, all right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And with that, we'll go into staff reports, and we'll start. It says staff report under financial services, but we're good. Yeah. So the 2024 MRDT tactical plan, and I'll pass it over to Mr. Garber.
Thank you through the mayor to the rest of council. Mr. Langemar leads our initiative in this way. We work cooperatively with the regional district's tourism function, and 4VI are very capable contracted service providers here to give a short presentation.
All right, hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Tanya, and I am with Experience Comox Valley and 4VI, and we're here to talk about the 2024 Municipal Regional District Tax Tactical Plan. First, I just want to acknowledge that Experience Comox Valley is grateful to live, work, and play on the traditional and unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. So 2024 will be year 3 of the 5-year strategic plan. Oh, I see stuff going on in there. We are continuing with our vision to be recognized as the premier Vancouver Island destination for outdoor, culinary, and arts and culture. We want to implement fiscally prudent destination marketing initiatives that are informed and tested through stakeholder engagement and focus on increasing overnight stays in the Comox Valley, particularly in the shoulder season months. Oh, that went too far. There we go. So basically, we want to build off of the momentum that began this year. So looking back at some of the highlights from this year, we produced some new promotional videos. So those themed around the 3 pillars that I mentioned: culinary experiences, arts and culture, and outdoor activities, as well as 2 new broadcast commercials that aired on Chorus, so Global, as well as CTV. We have new blog content that has been created and added to our website. And this year, more so than ever before in the past, travel, trade, and media were really present in our community, including we participated in the Explore Vancouver Island Travel Trade Show this past spring. And we've seen German National Radio, Seattle Magazine, the Weather Network, and Vancouver is Awesome in our communities over the course of the year. We've also been working in partnership with the airport, Comox Valley Airport, as well as Vancouver Island University, to conduct some visitor surveys, which has been missing to date, to create some of those baseline statistics. So we're really excited to get the results back from those, as well as working with visitor information servicing, increasing our scope of the mobile kiosks as well as our resources. So here's just an example of some of the ads you might have seen or some of the visuals that have been out there this year. For developing our 2024 MRDT plan, we did a similar process as what we did last year. So meeting with our Tourism Advisory Committee to preliminarily discuss the goals and priorities for the following year. And then myself working with our 4VI marketing team, we used perceptions research, surveys, tourism reports, as well as, of course, the TAC feedback to develop and draft a 2024 tactical plan, which we presented to the advisory committee in early September. There was a little bit more feedback, a couple of minor changes, and then the plan was approved by the Tourism Advisory Committee. These strategic objectives should all look very familiar to you. The advisory committee liked our overarching goals that we had for 2023, so decided to carry forward those same goals into 2024. So our tactics and our initiatives that we would be utilizing in 2024 will reflect the overarching goals of increasing revenue from visitation, so things like generating leads to the businesses, as well as managing our growth and benefit through seasonal and geographic dispersion, so building and positioning those destination drivers in the off-season, as well as investing or continuing to invest in market research so that we know what the customers, consumers, visitors are doing and what their satisfaction levels are. We want to increase the competitiveness of the Comox Valley as a desired destination, so improving that visitor experience and just continue to increase collaboration with and amongst our stakeholders. So continue, like I said, to build on that momentum. New this year, so new for 2023, was the supporting sustainable tourism. And as I mentioned, the TAC likes that goal and wanted to renew it again for 2024. So we will continue to amplify messages and the good work that our local tourism businesses are doing, but also work with them to educate on the Vancouver Island's biosphere certification, as well as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So tactics that are under marketing and promotion. Promotional strategies, of course, do include online and social media advertising. We also want to engage stakeholders and tourism businesses, tourism-related businesses in our marketing initiatives and campaigns that we run. And again, just increase those conversions to their websites through calls to action such as Book Now. We use traditional campaigns such as TV broadcast, print and radio ads, as well as integrated multi-platform digital campaigns, particularly in the spring and fall season, early spring and fall season. Our website experience, comoxvalley.ca, continues to be our main online tool for basically the hub of information about our region and what you can do here, what visitors, when they're planning their trip, what they can expect to see. It's where our campaigns drive people. So any digital ads, marketing ads that we do, many of them include QR codes that drive to either specific landing pages within this website or just the homepage. It is optimized for conversion to stakeholder websites. We have almost doubled the amount of businesses that have their free listing on our website, and I'm continuing to push forward with that and make sure, working with the visitor center staff actually to identify which businesses are currently missing from our website and just making sure we're getting in contact with them so that they're aware that this is a free resource for them to use, and all we need them to do is fill out a quick form with their information. And then we can get them listed on our website. Same goes actually for our events and festivals page. This year, we had an influx of events that were listed for free, especially throughout the summer months. And now I'm getting, my email is actually currently backed up with people with Christmas activities that I've got to now list on the website. So it's really great to see that it's something that people are more aware of and they're using it. I mentioned earlier too, our blog content creation, our blog page has a lot of great new written pieces for content, including some longer stay itineraries. That was something that was identified at the Tourism Advisory Committee, was increasing people to stay for longer. So we now have some 4- and 5-day itineraries for what to do if you're visiting the Comox Valley for a little bit longer, as well as earlier blogs, which highlighted 2-day itineraries for those weekend warriors that come up. And we'll just continue to update, improve, and build upon that website. Similar with our consumer asset development, in order to promote our region, we always need great visuals. So our budget for 2024 will continue to have things where we can hire photographers, videographers, capture the B-roll, like I mentioned earlier, make those promotional videos and commercials, as well as utilize them for our digital ads and on our website. We want to make sure there's a diverse representation of travelers in our region. So that includes all ages, races, abilities, LGBTQ, and et cetera, as well align with sustainable and responsible tourism messaging. Under media advertising and production, we'll continue to do print and television ads, working with email marketing, paid search ads. So Google ads, for instance, run all year round. Those are what we consider to be our always on campaign ads that are just running with digital search optimization. Paid social media ads, and including working with some new platforms such as TikTok. And then display and third-party advertising. We want to make sure that we're targeting those right fit consumers, explorer quotient types, and the key interest activities that highlight along with our pillars that we have here. On our organic social media page, we continue to use user-generated content. So these are real visitors, residents, locals sharing their stories and experiences. It has been proven that people are more likely to trust the word and what locals are saying. So we'll continue to do that. We do daily posts with new content, but also respond to questions, comments about our destination, and share stories through Instagram and Facebook in a timely manner, and amplify stakeholder content and events. And this engaged audience continues to grow each month, which is just great. We also utilize partnership marketing in order to help leverage our funds. So these include things like partnering with and buying into the Destination BC consortiums. This way we can amplify our message through a really engaged audience for a specific activity. Currently, we have worked with Ahoy BC, BC Ale Trail, Golf VI, and Ride Island, which is mountain biking. And we are looking at adding Fishing BC in for 2024. We've also partnered, as I mentioned, with the Comox Valley Airport, specifically with ads and messaging that help increase the awareness of direct flight options from Calgary and Edmonton into the Comox Valley. And we've had some other partnership opportunities where we've come together with other DMOs. Currently, there's an Island Taste Trail campaign that's been running since October. It actually, I think, ends tomorrow. And it's partnered with the Cowichan Valley, Nanaimo, Parksville, Qualicum, Comox Valley, and Campbell River. So it's a really neat campaign that encourages people to visit culinary destinations and experiences from Cowichan all the way up to Campbell River. So it's been really great working with that group. For tactics under destination and product experience management, of course, we have market research and evaluation. As I mentioned, we began this year some visitor intercept surveys, which will continue on into early 2024 so that we have comparables. We worked with the airport specifically for outbound passenger surveys, and that happened in August, and then it's going to happen again in February so that we can compare the peak season to the shoulder season. As well as, like I mentioned, working with the Vancouver Island University to capture visitors that are in our community at key locations that we identified as places where visitors might be. Basically, we want to use that to understand travel motivation, visitor behaviors, and satisfaction. And by starting the collection this year, and then being able to compare it to what we collect next year, that should provide us with some really great insights that will help inform our destination marketing. New for 2024 is getting some resident perception information. So we have been recently added to the engagecomoxvalley.ca platform. And it's a really great platform. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's got a lot of different tools that we can utilize, such as surveys, quick polls, interactive maps, and other tools to gain insights on resident sentiment towards visitors and tourism in our region. Sorry. As far as experience development and training goes, we will continue to offer our annual tourism industry workshop and networking session. Happened in January of this year, and we're planning it already for January 2024 as well as throughout the year supporting the industry and tourism businesses with education around United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and any other issues and topics that they feel would benefit, things like staff retention and social media amplification and those kind of things we'll continue to offer throughout the year. For event and experience support, this year in 2023, we piloted a new event and experiences fund. And our hope, we've got a lot of really great feedback from that. So we'll offer that again for 2024. I'm actually meeting with the Tourism Advisory Committee next week to go over the preliminary results from the pilot, as well as the feedback. And we're going to be looking to the advisory committee to make recommendations for if there's any changes needed for 2024. And then we'll be announcing that in the coming weeks here. Visitor servicing, our last area of tactics. So we have our Vancouver Island Visitor Center, which is open all year round, Tuesdays to Saturdays. Depending on staffing and like how much we get from Canada Summer Jobs Grant, for instance, we hope to be able to open 7 days a week in the summer during those prime busy months when we know that there are lots of visitors in our area and looking for things to do. Our mobile visitor servicing, we will continue to build on the momentum that started this summer. So utilizing downtown Courtenay, Cumberland, as well as the new Marine Services building in Comox. And we're looking at some new pilot locations in the electoral areas such as Union Bay and Saratoga Beach. There's advertising opportunities for tourism businesses and stakeholders at the visitor center, including brochure racking and screen advertising. We also have the consignment gift shop, which continues to highlight local artisans and their goods. And we will also continue to offer industry training and visitor servicing resources to front of house staff and other, like I said, tourism businesses in the area. All right, and next we have the online accommodations platform revenue. So this is just a quick overview again, because everything else that I mentioned previously is funded through the general MRDT revenue. But there is also the online accommodations revenue, which is what's collected through online marketplaces for short-term rentals, such as Airbnb, VRBO, and that money can be used towards affordable housing initiatives. And there's a separate form for the application for that, which is not for VI's thing. And yeah, any questions?
Excellent. Thanks for that. I know I certainly have some questions around the MRDT, SRT, short-term rental stuff for sure, especially in light of Cortez Island taking 100% of that towards affordable housing. But you said that wasn't you, so who would I direct that question to? All right, perfect. Okay, with that, I'll pass it over. Oh, did you want to speak first? Oh, Mr. Garvin.
Through the Mayor to Council. So sometimes these, because our partners are helping us with the regional tourism work, it does get mixed together. We remember that the MRDT is the city of Courtenay, contributed only by properties within the city of Courtenay. But the nature of tourism marketing all over British Columbia is it's all integrated together. And so just for clarification, this presentation was not just about the work of the MRDT, and the technical advisory committee that's underway is the technical advisory committee for our MRDT. And there's also initiatives underway to look at the regional tourism function that will be underway. So I just want to have some clarification because we do have interested properties in our municipality that are collecting the funds that support the MRDT on this run. With respect to the affordable housing component of the online revenue, Mr. Langemeier can speak to that. There has been an initial submission in that regard, and those policies are further to be developed. But I'll maybe turn over to Adam and potentially Marianne, potentially just.
Sorry, my apologies. It was a bit of an offhanded comment. I'm happy to let Councillor Hillian go. I was very excited. So my apologies, but I'm willing to wait, and then that may give some more time for thought. But I'll pass it over to Councillor Hillian.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll first move the recommendation that Council approve the 2024 Municipal and Regional District Tax Tactical Plan as prepared by experienced Comox Valley 4BI and staff. And if I could speak to it, I don't have any questions, Tanya. I'm really happy to hear what you're doing. It sounds wonderful, and it's consistent with the presentations that we've had from you before. I know that the visitor center has been in the news this week for different reasons. And those maybe aren't the visitors that you were thinking of bringing to the valley, but nonetheless, quite a unique situation there. I do want to ask though about the affordable housing aspect of this, and just one specific issue. The plan that is attached to the tactical plan in relation to the online funds indicates that money would be used basically to do a housing assessment before coming up with some action planning. And I really don't get that. We have a comprehensive housing assessment that was conducted regionally, completed in May of 2020. So I'm just curious as to why we would feel the need to do any further study on the housing needs of the community when they're really detailed quite extensively in that very thorough assessment. Why we wouldn't move straight towards using the money for an action plan that would help our housing situation. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian. Ms. Wade.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hillian. Yes, in regards to the housing needs assessment, there's regulations around the need to update the housing needs assessment every 5 years. And so we're in the process of doing that right now, and it will help to inform the action plan that we are putting together that was also part of the funding that we're seeking through CMHC as well. So we are looking at this funding to help us support the development of that housing action plan.
And a follow-up, 1 second.
Well, thanks for that clarification. Just as long as we're not engaging in another lengthy study process. Thanks, appreciate that.
Thanks for that clarification, Councillor Hillian. Appreciate that. And Councillor Gilles.
Thanks, Mayor. I do have questions for you, but as a follow-up, that was also a question that I had around the housing needs assessment from 2020. I think people in the community and our most recent elected forum on housing, there's a sense of urgency to start actually building housing. So when I saw that, I was a little concerned that we were going to go back out to tender for a consultant to do another study to tell us the thing that we know already. So if you can just clarify the funding, which is, I'm really happy to say, I think we have over $900,000 from OAP sitting in a reserve for this, which is really exciting for affordable funding, housing fund. Do you have an estimate on how much of that will be going towards the work that you've already initiated for updating the housing needs assessment?
Through Mayor Wells to Councillor Joker, very good question. Because of the moving pieces that we're involved with, that piece it's complicated because we're actually updating the housing needs assessment also in line with the CVRD and the regional housing strategy. So we have some money that's going towards that. And I couldn't give you an exact dollar amount right now on that, but I would be happy to follow up with you on that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to be able to hold on to as much of that money for development as possible, I think, at least in my opinion. Switching over to your presentation, in your tactical plan, in the first few paragraphs, you speak about the importance of economic reconciliation and really highlighting businesses for rights holders, so Métis, Inuit, and First Nations. And then in the detailed report around all the different products and assets that you're creating and all the amazing campaigns that you're doing, I didn't see anything specifically mentioning either Indigenous initiatives or programs or events or vendors or businesses. But then earlier in the report, you talk about that being a priority for VI. So I'm wondering if you can speak to any examples or any plans for this upcoming year to really highlight and support that economic reconciliation.
Yeah, thank you. So we haven't officially honed in on what those initiatives would look like, but we wanted to make sure that we recognize their importance for 2024. So that's why we have included it as a generalization in this plan. And then we want to work with our tourism Indigenous owned and tourism businesses here in our community to work with them to find out what their needs are and how we can better support them. So I think those answers will come. But yeah, I'm looking forward to making sure that that's on our radar and really a focus for 2024.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. So I don't know if this is the correct forum or if this is another conversation, but if you are able to speak to the MRTT in terms of putting some of those funds towards affordable housing, it sounds like an initial application's already gone in, but did you want to speak to that, Mr. Legenmeyer?
I can definitely speak to that. So this has been a challenge for a couple of years because you have to fill out a form, the Appendix 1.8, to access the OAP funds for affordable housing. To do that, you need to have the actions you're going to do. To do that, you need to have the needs assessment. So we're going through these steps so we can get to that housing action plan to identify the things we need to build, the very specific items. So you'll notice in the application, there's actually no money allocated under this plan for OAP. That's because I wanted to ensure that the province will accept this Appendix 1.8. And I don't want to muddy the application process of having Appendix 1.8 maybe not accepted and we have money in the MRDT overall application, because we can, once we have this accepted, we can go back and amend our MRDT application to apply all the funds to affordable housing. As that is occurring, we're going to be hopefully completing the action plan and we'll have very clear projects to do, which we can apply this OAP funds to. So as it sits right now, the OAP funds are all being saved. As Councillor Jolicoeur identified, we're current balance is at $914,000, and that's going up every month with the deposits we receive.
It's putting a smile on my face. I mean, it's been many years since I was first made aware it was possible, but it did seem to be a very elusive thing. And then, like I said, when Director Mark Banesh from Cortez Island was actually able to get the legislation changed so that 100% of that could be used towards housing, it just seemed like things are happening right now. So it sounds like we're on a good path. So just I want to thank you very much. Okay. And I think that is the questions that we have for now. There's a motion on the floor that's in front of us. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. And thank you very much for the presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And now we have a zoning amendment bylaw for 3094 1560 Grieve. And I'll pass it over to Ms. Wade. Oh.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a conflict with my employer, so I'll be excusing myself, unfortunately, for this item. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. And I'll pass it back to Ms. Wade. As soon as the door closes. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you today is just a staff report in regards to a rezoning application that staff has received to rezone a property at 1560 Grieve Avenue from R2 to CD 38, which will be a rental zone. So it will be for purpose-built rental. What is before you today is a request not to hold the public hearing as per section 4642B of the Local Government Act, which says that if the rezoning application is consistent with the OCP, there's not a requirement to necessarily hold a public hearing and to give notice as per 467 of the Local Government Act. I'd also like to just pause there and given all the changes in the regulations that have come forward over the last week, this process about the public hearing, as the bill is before the province at the moment and seeking royal assent probably in December. How we go about dealing with public hearings for properties that are consistent with the OCP will change, and we won't be doing this process anymore. So I just wanted to highlight that because we're kind of in that transition period, and what would happen is that we would just give notice and then it would come to council. So I'm just highlighting that we're kind of in a transition period. So what is being proposed is 16 units of housing for diverse abilities, 15 units, a mix of housing types, some stacked units, apartment style, and also some townhouse. It is also got 1 unit for support services that will be above the community amenity building. The society is a nonprofit society, La Arch, and they have a program specific to the development of these lands that has been reflected in the style of housing and the layout of the lands. They have requested reduced parking and because the residents don't necessarily utilize automobiles. And they have requested 6 stalls, so there'd be 4 stalls basically designated for visitors. There'd be a stall for the on-site support service person. And there's also a stall just in case there was a resident that required one. There'll be 2 EV parking stalls. There'll be also 14 bike stalls, and they're also looking at Handy Dart as well that'll be servicing. It's located, the massing is located in a mix of single family and other styles of the R2 zone. The massing reflects the neighborhood characteristic. It is also being built to step code 3, and there will also be a housing agreement associated with this as well that designates it as a purpose-built rental housing. 80% of the rents will be below market, so that will exempt them from any CACs. And they're working with various agencies, which is outlined in the report, for their funding sources. And they're going to do this in 2 phases, with the first phase being 7 units of community amenity building with the support service above, the second phase with the remainder of the units. And they held a community information meeting. There's a summary attached to the report, and they're being supported by the people that attended. And so I also wanted to say that staff is supportive of this and supportive of not holding the public hearing and giving notice. And if council has any questions, also the applicant is present tonight. Holly Card's here and is welcome to answer any questions you may have as well. And I'm happy to as well.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your briefing on this, and we'll start with Councillor Hillian.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that council not hold a public hearing per section 464(2)B of the Local Government Act as zoning amendment bylaw number 3094 1560 Grieve Avenue is consistent with the city's official community plan, and that council directs staff to issue public notice per section 467 of the Local Government Act that a public hearing will not be held for zoning amendment bylaw number 3094 1560 Grieve Avenue. And if I could speak to it, Mr. Mayor, I'm very, very pleased to see this come forward. Thanks to staff for all the work involved. And thank you to the proponents for everything that you've done. I think most of us have been familiar with this plan for several years, and have actually, some of us have been over to see working drawings within the last few years, and to the community meeting and such that has taken place. It's not only very refreshing to see such a positive project come forward, but to see the positive support that is in the community for it. And I have no hesitation in supporting this 100%. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian, and Councillor Frisch.
Well, I'll be brief, Mayor. Thanks. I just also wanted to move it and say thanks to the proponent and to staff for the comprehensive report.
Thanks, and Councillor McCullough.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Certainly echoing the sentiments already expressed that this is great to see this project progressing after we've learned about it over the last couple of years. And I mean, what stood out for me in the report was just there's so much alignment with our OCP that that particular part of the staff report was very lengthy, just due to how well it's aligned with what our council's and community objectives are. And then I just had a question for staff around the financial assistance letter, because that's not something that we're deliberating on now, but just want to understand when and how that will come back for a decision, and whether the proponent is aware that there is DCC fees that are related to the project that are not charged by the city of Courtenay.
Through the mayor to Councillor McCollum, yes, we will bring that back with the report that's coming for second and third readings. And we will highlight the request in there and give a resolution for council to consider how they might want to move forward with that based on what we've done historically and what is in the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund. And that'll be something council can deliberate upon.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And again, I don't want to delay this any longer, but just again, great kudos to all the folks who've been moving this along for a long period of time and have that vision, and just really see this as a really big step forward for our community. And so thank you so much. Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to pick up something that Councillor McCollum was mentioning about the DCCs. I wonder if the intent is that the proponent might approach the CVRD as well for some sort of support for this. I'll just mention that out loud in case that hasn't been thought of. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Councillor Frisch. And I believe the first time I met with him, that was one of the first things I might have mentioned, because we were currently dealing with Wache at that time, which had also seen that it was a bit of an oversight as well. So and I think to that point, Councillor Frisch, really any conversations with anybody, especially if it's something that is social housing of some sort, making sure that the letters DCC are articulated very early and so that they're really contemplated right through the process. So thanks so much. That being said, all those in favor? And that is unanimous. And we can, thanks, Ryan. And we'll move on to the First Street Lift Station project update. And Chris, there you are. Mr. Davidson, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the CAO to Mayor and Council. So the First Street Lift Station is at the end of its service life and is operating significantly over capacity. City of Courtenay tendered the First Street Lift Station construction project in the summer of 2023 with construction planned to run through the winter. The city unfortunately received only one bid and tender price was double what the construction budget was. As a result, the city canceled the tender because it was over budget. So the project team began investigating why the loan bid was so much higher than expected and found two key issues as the drivers. Project timing was the main factor. Contractors identified that working throughout the winter presented constructability challenges. As such, staff are now recommending to construct over the summer months. The other issue was traffic management. So the original tender was open-ended to allow for innovation. Unfortunately, this was perceived as being ambiguous and presenting a risk for the contractors. So as such, the city will further develop the traffic management plan. Staff are also requesting a budget increase of approximately $600,000, which represents an approximate 20% increase to fund the additional design optimizations and to increase contingency. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And Councillor Frisch.
Thanks, Mayor. No questions at this time, but I am happy to move the recommendation, and I'll move that based on the November 8th, 2023 report, First Street Lift Station project update. Council direct staff to proceed with retendering the First Street Lift Station tender in early 2024 with the intent to schedule construction for spring, summer, and fall of 2024, and that council increased the First Street Lift Station project budget to $3,698,000 funded from sewer operating and capital reserves.
That's been moved and seconded. And Councillor Schoenherr.
Thanks, Mayor. A question for staff on page 4 under financial implications. It has about from general revenue, there's a $2,400 change. Can staff speak to, I know that seems significant comparatively to the total price, but rather than, I mean, reserve is pretty explanatory, but just wondering if you can speak to general revenue, where that would be coming from and what that impact might be, although small, what the impact could be on our overall budget. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Langemeyer.
I would love to speak to that question. The reason for that seemingly small amount in general revenue is I like my reserve draws to be nice round numbers. So we could have either put the $2,400 coming from reserve, or we come from general revenue, which is funded by the current year's user fees. So it is a preference of number roundness.
Question?
Follow up?
Yeah, it just the second part of my question, which was any impact, because presumably that $2,400 was allocated to some other program or service.
Yeah, so within the whole entire sewer function, if we're over or under one of the budget lines, the $2,400 will be easily absorbed into the regular operations.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And I don't see any further questions at this time. We do have a motion on the floor. So all those in favor? Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. All right. And now we're going to move on to the Home Energy Navigator Program. And Mr. Garvin.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, Janine Tezioli is going to give us an overview of this report, and we're really excited to be working, the recommendation to work closely with the regional district, especially when we have these kind of initiatives. It's always great to have a regional focus. And when I say that, I mean a small R region, great opportunity. So over to staff.
Hang on. Oh, if you push the little podium button, I'll get the mic. There you go. Thanks.
Thanks. Through the city manager to mayor and council, I'm here to speak today about the Home Energy Navigator Program. This is an opportunity to collaborate in the region. This is something that the CVRD is pursuing and has invited us to join. So a bit of background on the project. Residential buildings are the second greatest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Courtenay, followed by transportation. Many rebates are available for residential energy efficiency upgrades that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Common sources are Clean BC, Cleaner Homes Canada Grant, Fortis BC, BC Hydro, but residents report barriers accessing these rebates. And so the Home Energy Navigator Program seeks to address those barriers. So the Energy Navigator Program provides start to finish retrofit support to residents. It's proposed to be administered by City Green, a nonprofit that supports GHG emission reductions in buildings across BC. It addresses the financial, technological, and knowledge barriers that residents may face, and it also establishes a single point of contact to simplify the process. Support is tailored to the needs of each resident, and the average cost to support a resident is about $425, although some residents may need more support and some residents maybe need less support. A similar program has been implemented in the Capital Regional District, the City of Vancouver, and the Regional District of Nanaimo. So it's administered in collaboration with the CVRD. City Green Solutions administers the program on behalf of local governments, and it's our choice to offer that program and that service to our residents. As part of working with the CVRD, we'll launch a communications campaign to inform residents of the program. We're proposing an allocation of $50,000, which is funded by the provincial local government climate action plan. So this proposal aligns with the City of Courtenay OCP, the Comox Valley Regional District Residential Emissions Reduction Plan, and the provincial Clean BC Roadmap to 2030. So it's recommended that council support participation in the Home Energy Navigator Program in collaboration with the regional district. And at this time, I'm happy to take questions.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And I'll pass it over to Councillor Frisch.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. That's exciting. The $50,000 coming from the CVRD, is that like area A, B, and C CVRD, or is that the CVRD where we pay half of that as well?
So each municipality and local government has the opportunity to determine how much money they would like to put forward to support their making the program accessible to their residents. So the CVRD has put forward $50,000 to make the program accessible to residents within electoral areas A, B, and C. And so it's proposed that we put forward an additional $50,000 to make it accessible to City of Courtenay residents. So the total program allocation would be $100,000.
That's great. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the CVRD's money was coming from the Electoral Areas Committee and not from us as well. But yeah, that sounds clear. I'm really excited about this and happy to support it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Frisch and Councillor Jolicoeur.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. I'm really excited and happy to support this as well. In this slide, you talked about the communications campaign, and in the staff report under financial implication, it talks about a portion of the funds allocated to the CVRD will be dedicated to communications campaign. So is the city doing a communications campaign and the CVRD, or is it the one comms campaign?
One comms campaign that we're working together on.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Excellent. And Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. I'm happy to see this coming forward so quickly after seeing it originally presented at the CVRD. I've certainly heard from people that as these initiatives are rolling out, that it is becoming increasingly complex for people to kind of understand how they can maximize their grants. So this seems like a great way to encourage the acceleration of home retrofits, which is a really important piece of meeting our greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. The question I had, when we've had successful programs in terms of home retrofits, such as the swapping out wood burning appliances for heat pumps, they've sometimes been a victim of their own success, and that we run out of the funding before the year is done, and then it waits for a refresh. And sometimes the public isn't sure if they're going to get the grant depending on availability. And so I guess my question is, because some of these funds are to, engage and educate the public on this new program, and some are specifically to cover residents using it. And so in a perfect world, what is the uptake that we're aiming for?
As the first year of the program, I think it'll be a process of making residents aware that this service exists to support them. And so with an average of $425 to support the whole retrofit process for a single resident, we're looking to support about 120 residential homes. And we have some flexibility to allocate more funds to the program if it seems to be popular among residents. So because it's funded by the provincial local government climate action fund, we have some funds that we could put toward it so that the program runs a little bit longer if needed.
Yeah, you kind of answered my follow-up question there in your answer, that that hopefully we're considering what a process for topping it up if needed, as opposed to the stop and start that sometimes happens. And then
Mr. Garbutt just wanted to add one thing as well, if that's all right.
Through the mayor to council generally, we would be ecstatic if we ran out of money in this program. Council may recall through the OCP deliberations that really the electrification of transportation and the existing housing stock are the biggest component of that. I think it would be really important to be monitoring and reporting back to council on the effectiveness of this program, because those retrofits in our housing stock, particularly in certain components of the community that are older, will be really impactful on our shared goals. And I'm very hopeful, given that it's also not direct taxation that supports this, that we access that. And I think really hope through our socials channels and the cooperation again regionally that we have significant uptake on this with the federal government's initiatives related to renovations, etc. These have been really big moves over the years, and now it's my understanding that federal government's getting back in towards some of these things and in those supports, and hopefully the provinces we can leverage very significantly. This is also an economic development tool, as these improvements have significant benefits as they roll through the community. So I'm, as I said in the introduction, really happy that this is underway, and the more we can do, the multiple benefits we achieve in the community. So I look forward to hearing initially from staff how it goes, and we'll really step back out and come back to council with outcomes.
Yeah, thanks. I couldn't agree more with your comments. And I just have one quick last question, if that's all right, Mayor.
Yep.
Yeah, just around the allocation of the local government climate action program, and how much does $50,000 represent out of roughly what we receive from the province on an annual basis?
So our annual allocation is $173,000. That's been our allocation for the first 3 years of the program. 2025 represents the last year, and then the province will reevaluate. And so it's expected that for the first 3 years of the program, we'll have $519,000.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that. And Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks. Interesting point. I was wondering, you said there might be a little bit more money. It sounds like there's actually a lot more money maybe. Like if this gets used up in the first 6 months, are we ready to roll on and fund it more?
We are able to fund it more. It depends on residents being aware and resident interest. So we look forward to getting some more data on the program. That is a service that's provided by City Green, the vendor for this project. And so as we learn more, we'll be able to better anticipate what a sustainable funding model for that looks like. And staff are also looking forward to some of the other climate initiatives we can use with that LGCAP funds. So it's not entirely going to be used by this program.
Understand. Thanks for the clarification.
Thanks, Councillor Frisch. And did the motion get moved yet? All right. Excellent. Thanks. Sorry, I just I didn't have anything on my papers here. So awesome. It's been moved and seconded. And did I see a light? Oh, perfect. Okay, so the motion as viewed on screen has been moved that council support participation in the Home Energy Navigator program in collaboration with Comox Valley Regional District. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And we will move on to the regional rec pass and the LEAP pilot report back. And Ms. Saunders.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, here to present on the Regional Recreation Pass and LEAP pilot report back. I just want to introduce Kathy Collins, our Manager of Recreation Programming. So I'm going to introduce the report, but Kathy and I are both here to answer questions. Kathy's been working with our regional partners on these two programs. And so she's the one who's got a lot of the detail if we need it. So as mentioned, the report is to request council's approval of making the Regional Leisure for Everyone Accessibility Program, otherwise known as LEAP, into a permanent financial access program for Courtenay, as well as providing a recommendation to council on the Regional Pass pilot project. So I'm going to start with LEAP and then just shift into the Regional Pass pilot program. So since 2021, staff have worked regionally to implement the pilot program to provide access to recreation facilities and services across the Comox Valley. These pilot programs have been very successful, with 113 youth LEAP memberships provided in 2022 and already 772 adult LEAP memberships provided to date in 2023 to residents of the Comox Valley. Eligibility to the financial access programs is determined based either on income level, so using the low income measure, or through referrals from outside service agencies that we have agreements with. The LEAP program provides 52 drop-ins to each of the four local government recreation facilities annually, regardless of where folks live. And the LEAP program is in addition to Courtenay's Recreation Access Pass, which provides annual subsidy amounts to children, youth, and adults towards our recreation programs, in addition to the 52 drop-in passes, and that's specifically for City of Courtenay residents. So each local government still maintains their individual financial access programs for their specific residents, in addition to LEAP. I do want to note just an edit to the chart on page 3. The numbers that we listed in table 1 around recreation access passes issued to date for 2023 actually reflect the number of the 52 drop-in punch cards issued. The actual number of recreation access passes applications that we received and have been approved for subsidy is 610 for families and 242 for individuals. So I just want to make sure that we clarify that the number in there is not actually the total number of subsidy passes. That's our drop-in passes. And you'll note that that's a significant increase year over year. So again, just reinforcing that financial access programs are benefiting residents in Courtenay and the Comox Valley, and that clearly folks are taking advantage of those programs in a good way. The shift to using the low income measure is also one of the reasons we're seeing an increase, because that raised the income level under which folks could qualify for financial access. It raises it quite substantially. So I think these programs are doing a really good job of addressing affordability challenges that folks in our community are facing. And so based on all of the above, we recommend that LEAP become a permanent program of Courtenay in conjunction with our regional partners. In regards to the regional recreation pass, so in 2019, council directed staff to prepare a report investigating options and implications of a regional rec pass for the Comox Valley. The work was put on hold during COVID and then reinitiated in 2021. When we did come back together, we focused on financial access. Really, that's one in part due to the impacts of COVID on folks' ability to afford recreation. And also each jurisdiction had a different level of interest in pursuing a regional pass, but everyone was agreeable to looking at increasing financial access. Now that LEAP has been implemented for a number of years, the team got together to look at what a regional recreation pass could consist of. A public survey was launched in March of this year. And while there was support from respondents for a regional pass, 58% of respondents indicated they would not pay more for the pass, with 29% saying they wouldn't pay more than 10%. So staff proceeded to look at how a regional pass would be administered, and the details of that are outlined in the report. But a few key items: at minimum, an additional 15% fee would have to be included to address the administrative implications of implementing a new program. And while there's significant interest from survey respondents, when we look at actual membership numbers and where folks live, there's minimal overlap between municipalities. The service offerings are different between communities based on our current membership models, and there does need to be consideration for the fee needing to be greater than just the 15%, up to 25%, to address the added value of a regional pass and the additional usage and associated impacts on facilities and equipment. Based on the above, it's anticipated that for a participant to see value in purchasing an annual regional membership, their usage of aquatic, rink, and fitness services would have to be greater than that of purchasing a membership plus a 10 visit card. So we all have drop-in punch cards, and you'll see that in the report, the comparison of the prices of those two products. A customer would have to be a very high user of these services between multiple municipalities to make the pass worthwhile. So taking this all into consideration, the implementation of a regional recreation pass is not recommended by staff at this time. It's predicted that a small number of people would benefit from a program that will require substantial staff coordination and administration. And staff would recommend that regional efforts continue to focus on reducing barriers to accessing recreation for those who are historically are faced with limitations to accessing rec, whether that be financial or otherwise. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much for the fulsome report. Glad to see it come back. I'll pass. Were you going to talk now, or is that going to be later? Just for questions. Excellent. All right. Councillor McCollum.
I actually don't have any questions. I thought it was a really well laid out report, and the rationale made a lot of good sense. And I'm really pleased to see how well the LEAP pass has been taken up, and it goes to show that there's a need that's being met with it, and that it's a good service that we should carry on with. So I'd like to move recommendation 1, that council approve making the Leisure for Everyone accessibility program, LEAP, a permanent financial access program for all ages in Courtenay Recreation.
So thanks for that. Does anybody want to speak to this motion? Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Jolicoeur?
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. Just a few questions for staff. Really appreciate the detailed report. I guess I was a little surprised with the second recommendation, considering 87% of people surveyed were interested in a regional pass, but hearing the report from staff and reading it again a second time, I think the data really shows that it would really just be limited to supporting a few individuals in our community. And I guess my question around the regional pass was, in conversations with our regional partners, specifically the CVRD, has there been any indication around their interest in or where they stand in their assessment of a regional pass? And I guess in speaking with the city manager about this too, is I think one of the pieces here was the undue administrative burden on different softwares that are used between different municipalities. And I guess the technical question is there not a software that integrates everything at once in the recreation sector? Just a question of curiosity. I was a little surprised at that.
No, okay. Thank you for the question through the Mayor to Councillor Jolicoeur. In terms of other jurisdictions, the CVRD staff had a very similar resolution, I think passed around the same time. It was before my time. So we've been working closely with them. I can't speak for what their recommendation would be. I think they were open to pursuing a pilot. I would say that Comox and Cumberland have some more reservations about pursuing it. So I think that's one of the things that maybe isn't explicitly articulated here is this would only work if all 4 jurisdictions are on board. And at this point, we are the first ones to come forward. And that's really because we're recommending we don't pursue it. So of course, it made sense for us to go ahead first to see what council's direction was. But I would say that there was more hesitation specifically from Comox because they also have a high number of folks. Their facilities are full. And just like Courtenay, of course, we want to welcome as many people as we can in, but there are service impacts when you become too full. So you're trying to manage that delicate balance. I can't speak for the CVRD, but they did have the same direction from the Rec Commission to explore this. So I think there was more interest in trying to pursue it and figure out a way for it to work. In terms of software, three of the jurisdictions use the same software, ActiveNet, and the other jurisdiction uses Perfect Mind. It's one, they don't talk to each other because we have separate licenses, but also for privacy. So we would have to enter into a very specific agreements on sharing information, and all of our members would have to agree to that. So they don't talk to each other because they're under different licenses, but also because they're protected under privacy legislation.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I had lengthy conversations around the software side of stuff. And I believe there was a movement for everybody to go to I believe it was Perfect Mind, and it did not go well. So a lot of money was spent, but as we found out just now, only one municipality is actually kept with it, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, and the only other, thanks, Mayor, for that. The only other comment was on the LEAP program. I think it's just really nice to see the data on the success on this. And I think what's not in here, if I put my public health hat on, is the impact that recreation has on people's lives, and to see the amount of individuals and families, like to see how high that family number, like that just is like, that makes this all worth it to me. And I think that has ripple impacts with our employers, with our schools, with community well-being and cohesion. And I just want to bring that into this conversation because we're talking about like the numbers and the data, but I think, these are humans as well. And just really want to appreciate staff's willingness to move this project forward, and happy to also see that our other municipal jurisdictional partners are also making this a permanent program. So it's something that we can be proud of in the Comox Valley. Is something that we support all families to access recreation. So thanks for your work on this.
Thanks, Councillor Jolicoeur and Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I guess my question is around what your thoughts on, I mean, the next recommendation is about increasing or reducing barriers. You know, obviously this is doing really well. What's your gut feeling on how many more people could use that assistance? I mean, we talked about reducing costs for programming and the use of our facilities and how it could be very beneficial for our community and really save us money in the long run. Through health and fitness and well-being and all the rest. And I wonder how much more can we do? Do we have any ideas of whether it's just letting people know that this program's out there, or if it's more about reducing costs, or what are your thoughts on that? Like, how much bigger could this program be?
Sure. Is it on? Okay. Thanks for the question. Through the city manager to mayor and council, I do think we could increase it just by bringing more awareness to it. We've done a really good job at opening up access to have people sign off for people who may not have ID, and that's really improved access. I think now it's just improving more collaboration and partnerships and getting out more into the community to the service agencies where we know a lot of those clients may be residing. I think to just programs and partnerships, there's ways of doing things collaboratively with other people in the community just to make things accessible for sure.
Yeah, that's hopeful. And I also imagine that you know, there are families and kids who maybe look at the price of some things and think maybe they can't afford it, but don't know that maybe there's some help. And so I don't know if getting the word out through schools or whatnot might be beneficial, but really excited to see this program grow and in fact invest more money in leisure activity through taxation. So thanks very much for doing this.
Excellent. And we do have recommendation 1 on the floor, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks. And with that, I'll move that council direct staff to not implement a regional recreation pass and focus regional efforts on further development of LEAP to increase financial access and reduce barriers to recreation.
It's been moved and seconded. Does anybody want to speak to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. All right, Vancouver Island Regional Library appointments. Councillor Frisch.
I'll move that council appoint Councillor Cole Hamilton to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board for a 1-year term, January 1st to December 31st, 24, with Councillor McCollum appointed as alternate.
All right. And I believe it's same. So we'll just call the vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right. And we'll move into playground design standards project update for internal. And we'll go back to Ms. Saunders.
Thank you through the mayor to council. The purpose of this report is to inform council on the status of the Park Playground Design Standards Project. So in February 2023, the city allocated a portion of the Growing Communities Fund to Courtenay's Playground Renewal and Replacement Program. The Playground Renewal Program is based on condition assessments conducted annually and results typically in like-for-like replacement of infrastructure. So with this additional grant funding, staff have procured a consultant to apply guidelines from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and the OCP to develop design standards for the city's playgrounds in community and playground parks. The design guidelines will be informed by established industry standards, safety standards, accessibility frameworks, such as the Rick Hansen Accessible Play Spaces framework, leading practices, including nature playgrounds, risky play, the framework for recreation in Canada, and so on. So staff have begun meeting with the consultants. And just want to note that while the report shares the original timeline, in our conversations with consultants, we've decided to move the community engagement into early 2024, just in recognition of the busy time of year. We'd hope to try and launch it before the winter break. But knowing that our target and grade engagement group of children, youth, and families is quite busy in the next few weeks, I will move it into early 2024. However, we still expect to report back to council with a final report in late spring 2024. And happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Councillor Hillian.
Thanks, Mayor. And I'm just wondering when we might get some sort of a priority list of the parks that are going to be looked at and in what order, and how high Woodco Park is on those?
Thank you for the question, through the mayor to Councillor Hillian. We do have already established list of priority playgrounds based on condition assessments. Woodcote is at, I don't know what number, but at the top of that list. And we do recognize and hear from the community about that playground frequently. I don't believe that anything in the design guidelines will change the priorities of our playgrounds, but rather will give us design guidelines around what we build to replace the playgrounds that are currently there. We are also having discussions with the consultants about what we can do concurrently with this project to try and advance playground renewal as quickly as we can, because we know specifically Woodcote is very eager to have their playground renewed.
Thanks for that. Second question and final is, I noticed over the last week or two, and particularly today, that the city work staff are planting trees in Harmston Park. And maybe that's a public works question, but I was just curious because my understanding was that we haven't really fully determined what the plans are for that park. There's a number of options that have been tossed around, and while I'm happy to see the trees, I'm just wondering if that's consistent with any future plans that we might have.
Thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Hillian. I can't speak to the trees. That would be a question for Public Works. I can speak to that in our work plan and actually in the Parks and Rec Master Plan implementation strategy that council adopted recently. Harmston Park was listed as a priority park for a new park plan. And so we'll be bringing that forward in the budget process to be considered for 2024.
Thanks. And I'll just add a footnote that you may already be aware of it. Harmston Park is rapidly becoming the city's unofficial dog park. So something to take note of.
Mr. Garbutt.
Thank you through the mayor to council. We've actually been undertaking quite a bit of tree work and planting. That was delayed for a number of factors. So you may be hearing from residents who are excited to see new trees go in. And it's just an operational item that was impacted by a variety of factors, weather, species availability, etc. So it's a good time to do that right now. And knowing council's interest as well as our underlying policies, it's great to see tree canopy improvements.
Thanks, Mr. Garbutt. And Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick comment. I think that I'm really happy to see that the whole picture will be involved here, including the recants and standards, which of course I've been hoping to see with our playgrounds. And a couple of us were at social planning this week, and we do have another community member being trained, doing actual course in being able to do those assessments. And so there will be at least 2 that I know of. And so we will have the local expertise. So that's exciting as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. And Councillor Hillian.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Been moved and seconded. And my only comment, which I've already shared with Ms. Saunders, is just I know there are some community groups, including some Rotary clubs, that are chomping at the bit. And the Strathcona Sunrise one that did the Sky Park, which is an accessible playground. I believe the first one in the Comox Valley is really looking for some projects that they can sink their teeth into. But there are other community groups as well. Councillor Jolicoeur.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just the one question on what's to come under the PPDS, the Park Playground Design Standards, is I guess in the second to last paragraph on that page speaks to climate adaptation, and it gives an example of shade. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that aspect in our park design, and what the scope of what we will be looking at. Is that also natural assets, or is it solely looking at artificial shade structures or other artificial climate adaptation assets?
Ms. Saunders.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Jolicoeur. We would be looking at both natural and sort of infrastructure. It's really at this point in the hands of the consultants to provide us some guidance and ideas and suggestions based on their past practice. The consultants we've procured have significant experience in playground design. And so we're both looking at it from how do we provide playground spaces that provide shade and shelter for folks to safely access those spaces. But also if there's any other role or how we look at designing those spaces within the natural environment, we'll be looking to the consultants to provide us some thoughts and guidance on that.
All right, thanks for that. And the motion's on the floor. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. And we'll move into councillor resolutions and Councillor Jolicoeur.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just read out the motion first. Okay. So whereas council's strategic priorities, values, anti-discrimination policy statements, and guiding principles recognize the importance of upholding the community values of respect, equality, and diversity. And whereas the city recognizes and respects the rights of individuals and groups to freedom of expression, it is imperative to balance these rights with the responsibility to ensure the safety and protection and well-being of all residents. And whereas this resolution serves as a proactive measure to maintain a safe and inclusive environment within city-owned facilities and reinforce our dedication to promoting diversity, fostering understanding, and rejecting acts of discrimination or hate. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to prepare a report outlining options to keep city facilities free of hate and inclusive of all people.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, just really briefly, I think this is really just adding to some of the good work of previous council under the motion of Councillor Morin around the anti-discrimination and anti-hate. We've seen recently across the country and across Vancouver Island in particular, some groups accessing or wanting to access facilities to perpetuate things that are really out of alignment with our city priorities around equity and supporting reconciliation efforts. And so really this is really just wanting to understand fully what our options are as an order of government, as a municipal government, to really ensure that our spaces, our facilities, our city facilities are safe for all people.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thanks very much, Councillor Jolicoeur, for bringing that forward. And next we have a notice motion from Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that we move item 9.1 into council resolutions for discussion tonight.
Okay.
And is it debatable, or am I allowed to speak to it?
Motion to vary the agenda.
Yeah.
To take
it out as notice of motion and actually to deal with it tonight.
I believe if
I think it's just a motion.
Yeah, I'll just speak to the rationale then. It does go back to council meetings when this delegation appeared. And I think we're all pretty clear about what it means. There's been plenty of opportunity for the public to be involved. We did have a communication, some of us from the organization today, speaking about some urgency around their desire to work on this particular project. And I think dealing with it tonight, rather than waiting for another 2 weeks to simply order a staff report is a more effective way of dealing with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian, and I believe Councillor Frisch has been working with staff on this motion. So maybe I'll let Councillor Frisch speak to it, and then and I think we'd have to have a seconder unless it's been seconded. Yeah. Okay. Then maybe you've spoken to it.
Yeah. I can clarify. I just wanted to give staff an opportunity if they wanted to let us know if considering this early is a problem for them, if they need more time.
Mr. Garvin.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Frisch's question. We as staff recommend following our procedure bylaw and recognize that the process by which the delegation followed up, that's been prescribed and we're working towards that. And every time we follow our bylaws, that reinforces procedure. Been advised through staff that it wouldn't negatively impact what we're doing. It is we would not be returning back with the staff report in 2023 on this matter. But we have got an extremely full work program. However, it's my understanding there are some ongoing initiatives with respect to Vanier Nature Park. And I don't know that the organization may desire to have this in front of council, and we would obviously take the direction. I gotta offer that for your consideration.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And I guess I'm thankful for the flexibility, but also understanding that you guys have a full work plate. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks.
All right, there's a motion to convert this to a motion for tonight. So I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that passes. So Councillor Frisch, if you'd like to move your motion as a motion rather than notice a motion.
That's great. Did you want to do it later or do it right now?
Right now, yeah, this is
Thanks,
the appropriate time.
Yep, thanks, Mayor. So I'll move that based on the delegation by the Comox Valley Nature in regards to Vanier Nature Park and the Garry Oak Grove located in the park, council directs staff to report back to council on options for working with Comox Valley Nature and other partners to support the restoration of the Garry Oak Grove and Vanier Nature Park.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. And we'll move on to the notice of motion. Councillor Jolicoeur.
Thanks, Mayor. It's not showing up for me here. Thanks, I got it. Okay, whereas downtown Courtenay is a commercial, cultural, social, artistic, and culinary hub of the Comox Valley, whereas the City of Courtenay Downtown Playbook 2016 identifies the following goals to support the revitalization of downtown for more people downtown, connected downtown, special events, learning, playing, living, and shopping. Whereas the playbook prioritized Create the Heart, Duncan Commons Muse, where special events can occur and people can gather, truly anchoring downtown for social and cultural events. And whereas the Downtown Courtenay Business Improvement Association, the Comox Valley Arts Council, the Comox Valley Art Gallery, the Comox Valley Farmers Market, Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce have been working towards supporting the temporary summer closure of the Duncan Avenue from 5th to 6th Street. Be it resolved that staff bring forward a report on the Duncan Avenue Summer Pilot Project outlining considerations and financial implications for implementation in 2024. And further be it resolved that council directs staff to collaborate with the Duncan Avenue Working Group to review options for the design, implementation, and evaluation of the pilot and include in the report back to council.
Thanks very much for that notice, and we'll move into bylaws. So first we have bylaw 3114 municipal ticket information amendment bylaw. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? And there's two recommendations, but we're going to do one at a time. Miss Wade.
Thank you, your Mayor Wells and council. I just wanted to just give a quick high level overview. What I wanted to bring forward was that the building bylaw and the MIT amendment was well in works before the motion that we received on October 25th. We did try to put in a little blurb in the report about the zero carbon step code, and staff is aware that council is looking for a report, and that we are aware of that, and that we are looking towards some recommendations with the zero carbon step code. As our other colleagues in other municipalities, there was an engagement process in that, and we haven't been able to do that yet. We did raise it at the development industry meeting, and we're aware that they would require some more information on this, and we'd like to work with the development industry on that. We have just suggested that following how we followed the energy step code, which is what we're always one step ahead of what the provincial regulations are, is just something we put in the report to say that's kind of where we look at going forward, so that we're kind of consistent in how we've implemented the energy step code. We're really excited about this because this is actually bringing us one step code higher than what the current legislation is requiring us to do. And that we've also increased the building permit fees, and that we're excited that we're working in zone 5 now rather than zone 4, which is even greater building efficiencies as well. And I have the manager of building services, Mr. Preston here, who can answer any questions and give you an overview of some of the changes. And so I might turn that over to him to do a quick little highlight of the changes.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on behalf of the building department team, I'd like to present the building bylaw for council's consideration. The bylaw review focused on several aspects, bringing it into alignment with the OCP, clarification with what is regulated under the bylaw, provide a more concise and easier to use document, review fees, charges and fines. The last change or amendment was back in 2010. The MTI bylaw, and with respect to the motion that came forward on October, the zero carbon step code. So the policy within the OCP BL4 required new construction to be one step higher than the BCBC. This came into effect on May the 1st of this year. So this brought in that simple Part 9 buildings would require to be to step 3 and complex would be to step 2. So so the bylaw is putting those one step higher, and language is also being incorporated in the bylaw. So when the province changes their requirements again, we can automatically move forward without having to come back for council's consideration on that. So that's been incorporated already in the bylaw. When you compare to Nanaimo, Victoria and Saanich, Courtenay's accelerating their energy step code a lot faster than any of those jurisdictions. City of Nanaimo is only moving their Part 3 buildings to step 3 until January the 1st, 2026. So Courtenay is if the bylaw gets moved forward, then this will come into effect on the 1st of January of next year. So as originally mentioned, the climate data, the bylaw is going to follow the BCBC. So the climatic data within the BCBC is zone 5, so that will create a higher level of energy efficiency as well. So there's higher requirements there. Taking into consideration energy efficiency and safe habitable buildings, there's been a limit on moving buildings into Courtenay and around Courtenay to 15 years. So that sort of fits in with like 3 code cycles. So that was also taken into consideration at that time as well. Clarification with what's regulated under the bylaw. So the scope and exemptions was elaborate or expanded to provide better clarification, not just for staff, but also for the public. So what is regulated under the bylaw? So you're looking at garden structures, retaining walls, swimming pools, what is and what is not regulated. And it's a lot more elaborate in the scopes and exemptions that was there previously or is in the existing bylaw now. We wanted to provide a more concise and easier document. So the bylaw is based on the MIA core bylaw, and there is flexibility that you can modify the bylaw to suit each jurisdiction's needs. With the bylaw, there's a lot of repetitiveness or in the existing core bylaw. So what we've done is we've removed the duplication and the requirements for simple and complex buildings, And I've included general applications that apply to both, and then you just apply the additional ones to whether it's complex or, so it's reduced the document quite considerably. So that was another focus of the team when we were looking at this bylaw. And with that, we've also always review the fees and charges. One thing that I'm quite excited about is actually having the application fee being a percentage based of the actual permit fee. The current bylaw, the application fee is $50, $100 or $500. So for a complex building, a $500 application fee is it doesn't even cover the cost for staff to do anything with it, especially complex buildings. The other thing is it also provides incentive for developers to collect their permits and actually be serious about their proposals that are coming forward to the city. So the intention is to take 25% of the permit fee as the application fee, because we have had in the past developments come in. We've done a lot of work on a permit and it sits there and all we've got is $500. So I'm quite excited to see that go in. We've also included some fees and charges with respect to archives research and the request for information on permits, where before these can take a lot of staff time and there's no reimbursement for that work. So that's how we looked at the fees and charges. We also did a comparison with our neighboring jurisdictions, particularly Campbell River, because their bylaw was just recently updated this year. So our permit fees, it's not a very simple, easy apples to apples comparison. Because they do their fees and charges slightly different, but when you sort of round it up over the $5,000, $1,000, and $400,000 permits, we're within $50 of their permit fees, and the higher version we're about $200 to $300 within. So we're very comparable. Our fees and charges, there's not been any real change since 2010. So it was well overdue to be reviewed and updated. Now, the reason why the MTI bylaw is brought forward for council's consideration is there's schedules attached to the fines within the building bylaw. So because the building bylaw has been updated and we've made it more concise, the articles or sentences within the bylaw have to relate to the schedule within the MTI bylaw. So that's been brought forward to have that ensure that they match. The building bylaw also used to have the fines attached to that. That's now been removed and it's just going to be contained in the MTI bylaw. It prevents confusion. It prevents error if one bylaw goes forward and the other doesn't. So it's a better format to follow through on. The fees were or the fines, I should say, were also reviewed at the same time. Now we kept the maximum fine to $500 for consideration of the introduction of maybe the bylaw notification system, which limits it to a $500 fine. And this can then be related straight across. So there's been a few new fines added, and also the fines have been updated and increased in some areas. So the last thing I was going to talk about was the motion and the zero carbon step code. It's broken down into 4 levels. Emission levels 1 or EL1 up to EL4. Now EL1 is a measure only aspect, and I don't consider that, sort of any benefit to the direction that's given within the OCP for that. EL2 and EL3 is where you start regulating the heating systems or the service hot water systems. That'll be one or the other. EL3 goes into you're regulating both, and when you get to EL4, you're doing the whole building system. So that's not just your heating and service water heating, that's also appliances and equipment that are contained within that building. So that would require your dryer, these sort of appliances to be taken into consideration as well. Now the city of Nanaimo is moving forward with EL4, but they're not considering doing that until July of next year. Initially, when we started looking at the building bylaw and the review, the building department's initial look is to follow the BC, the Clean BC plan to 2030, and they were implementing GHG emission requirements potentially the beginning of next year, 2027, and obviously by 2030 you got to reach net zero. So because there was nothing provided by the province, we waited and waited. So we looked on following that as the initial direction. When the motion came forward, staff also considered that we could apply the same approach to what we did with the energy step code as well, and that was just put forward as for consideration. It was just something that we could bring to yourselves for as a one option. But as Ms. White said, we haven't had the opportunity to do any real surveying of the industry or the development meeting that we did have. They weren't very familiar with what I was talking about, which isn't unusual. So, and on that, I'll happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. It does look like there are a few questions, and I do just want to give kudos to staff for especially around that simplification and just making the application process more straightforward. I think that's just best for everybody. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the reports. I think our hearing that we haven't had a proper update since 2010 highlights the fact that this work was ready to be delivered. So thanks for all the work on this. It's certainly one of our more lengthy and complex documents that we have included in our bylaw processes. I had a question and I'm not sure if this is something you can answer off the top of your head, but just looking at the difference between the zero carbon step code, the level 3 and level 4, the major difference, as you highlighted in your report, is really around appliances. It sounds like the dryers and the cooking appliances. At least that's what it seems like to me in reading it. And given that there's a lot more information, out in the media now about the health impacts of cooking with natural gas, I assume that's mostly what I don't think a lot of people install natural gas dryers unless they're living off grid. Those are the only places where I've seen them. So I'm just wondering if in what you've seen in the last, say, like 5 years in terms of both the complex and simple buildings, is there a change in fewer people installing gas appliances as the go-to, or is that still a pretty common decision in a new home being constructed that people are putting gas in their kitchens?
There you go.
Through mayor to council, I can't actually answer that. It would just be opinion, and so the city hasn't monitored what appliances have been going into new construction. Obviously, people use a lot of heat pumps. It's not the only form of meeting GHGs. I know people are very focused on heat pumps, but there's, electric baseboards are the same, so they're not as efficient, but there is that to it.
Yeah, I guess I was just mostly zoning in and whether or not there is really a significant difference around the level 3 versus level 4, because as you pointed out, like it's really the heating systems and the water systems that are the big draw. So and yeah, it's really a curiosity. I had a feeling you may not know that off the top of your head, but I was wondering if that's really, if there would be a significant change in whether or not people would, for example, want to even run a gas line up to their house if we've implemented level 3 and there's no heating or hot water, then, what are the likelihood that someone wants to install a gas appliance still? If we've already gone as far as level 3, I'm just wondering if level 4 is really that much different. It's more wondering. The other question I had wasn't around the zero carbon step code, but you did, from what I understood, our new fees are pretty much in line with Campbell River or fairly close. And you may have said so, but I didn't hear it. Are we fairly in line with, our rural neighbors and town of Comox, Cumberland? Is it pretty standard across our community, or maybe there's bylaws are not as recently updated? So I'm just curious to hear how we're comparing with the region with this update that's on the table.
Through mayor to council, our fees would be basically Comox Valley 0.25% higher than them. From memory, their bylaws not been updated for a considerable amount of time. I think that probably in the same region of ours. I focus more on the comparison between cities rather than the regional districts. You're also dealing with a different form of construction. So regional districts, you'll see a lot more custom homes. We're dealing with a lot more commercial aspects as well. So we are going to be higher than our regional partners.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Councillor McCollum and Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you. I appreciate how quickly you managed to integrate the zero carbon step code work, and given that we only brought that resolution 2 weeks ago, exactly. And I can see where you were coming from with wanting to be one level above where the province was, as we are with the step code. But of course, level 1, as you're mentioning, is essentially no change at all. It's just monitoring things. So it'll be interesting to see how discussions go. And I think your process of doing the idea of doing consultation, having that kind of process, that's certainly what Nanaimo did at some length. They just began it earlier in the game, and as a result, there's a few steps ahead of where we're contemplating being. But I think that that consultation process definitely needs to occur. But it'll be interesting to sort of tease out the distinctions between level 2 and level 3. And so it's level 2 where you have space heating or hot water. The biggest driver of emissions would be the actual heating system for heating the air in the house rather than the water. And so it'd be interesting to be contemplating level 3 as an objective, and what time scale it would take to reach that, because it seems like level 3 is the sort of level that would help us actually achieve the 2030 targets that we've set for ourselves. But as I said, it's obviously early days. I appreciate you managing to find a way to fit these together in such short order. And do you have a sense, given the consultation you're planning, of when a more detailed report might come back to council on that?
Hang on. Just wait.
Thank you, Mayor Wells, and to Council Coleman. Yes, we're working that into our work plan for 2024 because we're got a lot on our plate for the next 2 council meetings. And I would be happy to do a quick update as what that engagement would look like and that timeline. And I'm happy to bring that back to council right in the beginning in January, so you can understand where our community engagement process.
Okay, thank you. And I know that there's, as we were talking about before the meeting, there's a lot going on in the planning space. The province is handing a lot of work down almost every week. So the fact that you're able to integrate this and report back to us in the new year is really appreciated. So we'll look forward to hearing that. Thanks.
Yeah, I think there's another briefing meeting tomorrow, in fact. Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks to staff for the report. I guess I'm wondering where you're at with consultation on the new building bylaw. That's what we're looking at. Or is it just sort of, you've told them it's coming up and they should read it and get back to us with their thoughts?
Just wait.
Yes, through Mayor Wells to Councillor Fish. So this is an administrative bylaw, and what we did is when we met with the development industry, we updated them that this was coming forward and the changes. The development industry is aware that there's legislative changes that are required, and they also are aware of the fees and our processes. And I know that Mr. Preston has had some conversation with the builders and they're aware, and there hasn't been any resistance to this. And so we feel very comfortable with it. So there wouldn't be any further engagement with this.
That's great to hear. And on the front of the step code, I'm also really happy to hear that there'll be more engagement moving forward. I know in the past, the regional district, and it may have been in conjunction with the city of Courtenay, has done some sort of educational days. I think it was here actually, explaining changes to the building code. That was years ago, and that might be necessary moving forward. If we truly are leaders, then we're asking a lot of our building community to step up and be ahead of the rest of the island or province. So maybe we could look at something like that in conjunction with the regional district. And so just a quick question, how do you feel about the regional district keeping pace with us in general? Or they look like they'll come along for the ride if we ask them, or if we're going to be doing this alone?
I think Mr. Garbutt would like to.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. That matter was more recently discussed actually at the CVRD electoral areas. They had a slightly different approach to the step implementation of the step code, whereby if you built ahead of the step code, you at the time got a discount on your building permit. That has subsequently been removed. That was a few months ago. I happened to view that meeting. Just when we have shared airshed, shared lands, shared builders for the most part, having consistency is great. Every builder will tell you they build in every jurisdiction, and the more consistent we are, the easier it is for them. Hence costs and those sort of bureaucratic implications. We don't prescribe those items to the electoral areas. They have also identified at the board level strategic priorities in these areas, and I would suggest that conversation happen at with the regional district and the electoral areas.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And we'll move on to Councillor Jolker.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the detailed presentation and the report. Really happy to hear that we're now charging for administration for what I understand to be quite a detailed process that takes up a lot of time for our staff. So really happy to see that, and that we're on board comparatively to our neighbors. I guess my question were particularly around the fees, particularly the MTI fees. So on the schedule in Appendix 2, So these amounts here, the fines, the majority of them have been increased, if I understand that from your presentation. Do we have an idea on, and I think in the staff report you spoke to the comparators with other communities as well, that this is more in alignment. Do we have an idea around the amounts of offenses that occur on this list? And this might more be a question for bylaw services, but and then relative to those offenses, how many repeat offenses? And you spoke to compliance in the staff report as one of the driving factors for the increase in fines to support folks to not comply with the regulations. So I'm wondering if you can speak to how our sector is doing in Courtenay relative to these offenses, and how many do we see a year, or if you have any kind of trends or themes that you'd be able to share.
Through the mayor to council. The building department doesn't track the offences with respect to it. It's through the bylaw department, and they would be able to provide that information with respect to that. The fees have increased, and always look at the MTI or the bylaw notification system is a compliance tool. It's to encourage people to follow the rules and the regulations. The MTI bylaw allows you to, every day is a new offence. So these fines can actually be applied every day. You wouldn't set off down the road of that. You always give, the focus is to achieve compliance. So encourage somebody to do the correct thing. The building bylaw has also had its violations increased up to $50,000. So this is just one tool to get compliance, but you can also go long form prosecution, which can then go for higher amounts above and beyond these. So I think I'll leave it out because now I'm speaking.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
Speaking to another department.
Yeah, and it sounds like our approach to this bylaw, the MTI, is an approach that we take across bylaw services, that we try to support the people that come into compliance before we find them.
Through the merit, it's a tool to encourage people to comply first, and we have other tools in which to, depending on the seriousness of the violation.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. We've had a very fulsome discussion around this. No further questions or comments I see. So I believe we have the motion on the table. So all those in favor? And that's unanimous. And there's a second recommendation. Excellent. And any discussion around recommendation number 2? I think we've encapsulated all of it. So we'll call the question. All those in favor? And again, that's unanimous. We'll move for adoption for a zoning amendment for 1814 Grieve Avenue. Right, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Fantastic. Great to see that project go. Oh, I should have asked if you have a for 1814 Grieve. Okay. All right. And moving on to council reports then. Councillor Cole Hamilton. Councillor Frisch. Councillor Hillian. Councillor Jolicoeur.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just really quickly, the Comox Valley Substance Use Collaborative met and just wanted to provide an update to the community. This group has been meeting to really take this substance use strategy to the next step in phase 3, and really happy to see commitment from our partners across all jurisdictions in the Comox Valley, but also across sectors, the school district, the RCMP, and Island Health, and our service provider partners. And one of the really exciting things that I think would be interesting for folks to know is that the Substance Use Strategy Collaborative is going to be exploring engaging in some public awareness education workshops in the community, and that will be forthcoming in the new year. And initially starting with stigma reduction, which I know there's a lot of work with the Strengthening Communities grant that's gone into that as well. So just wanted to highlight that and something to look forward to. Thanks.
It's Councillor Jolicoeur and Councillor McCollum. And Councillor Moore.
I'll try to be brief. Just a couple things. I attended the with a few other folks, the strategic cultural plan, public engagement, feedback, and presentation a few days ago. And I just wanted to commend staff for doing a great job. And one of the things that stood out for me was that we had a sign language interpreter at that presentation, and that I believe that's the first time we've had that, to my knowledge. And interestingly, Councillor Hillian and I were at the social planning meeting a few days later when there was a lot of discussion on accessibility, and one of the folks at that meeting brought up that they would really like to see sign language interpreters at public, larger public gatherings, etc. And so it was really great to be able to tell her that we had just had that at this cultural strategic plan presentation. And my understanding is that was as a result of feedback, people asking for that. So I just thought that was just really great. Great to be able to show that our staff had responded to that feedback, and that we have incorporated a new piece of accessibility. And I'm hoping that will become kind of the norm, if possible. And just a couple notes on the social planning meeting. This was the annual meeting, well, the second time the Bunny Shannon Heart of the Community Award has been presented, and that was presented to Ramona Johnson, whom many people would know was very involved in the IHOS Gallery and many community events, including Walking with Our Sisters and all kinds of other community work. And it was noted that she's one of those folks that kind of flew under the radar. It's always great when people who don't make a big commotion about all the great work they're doing are rewarded. And sorry, I realized that Mayor Wells was also at that meeting. And then just there was a lot on that agenda, a lot of information around accessibility and things that are going on. And I think just the final note that I'll make the day of the meeting was I guess it was just a couple days ago, was on the eve of the living wage report coming out, which of course came out at 6:30 this morning. And our living wage in the Comox Valley has gone up by a fair amount. It's $22.02 now. I believe City of Vancouver is 25 something. So that means that families are having less in their pockets when they get their paycheck. More and more of their paycheck is going to things like food and transportation and all kinds of other needs that they have. So just wanted to note that that it's great when we have living wage employers in the valley, and I did note also today that I believe it's Island Ready Mix is doing a program to train staff and get some funding so that their starting wage will be something like 30 something an hour. And it was neat to see that was a company that was would be above the living wage. So just wanted to note that we are in that situation where we're needing more and more money every day just to pay the bills. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Appreciate that. I've got a couple of things on my list here. The first thing is really to amplify and use this as an opportunity to talk about the extreme weather response shelter that we're looking for right now. I do really want to acknowledge the Comox Valley Regional District for stepping up, providing some funding, I believe $91,000, and all of the local leaders in our community from Comox First Nation, the base, the other mayors, and actually technically the chair of the Comox Valley Regional District. I'll maybe mention that momentarily, but it's been great to have people giving us some suggestions and stuff, but we are still in the process of finding a location and actually multiple locations for this winter. And although we would have liked to have had them up and running already, at this point, that just, I think, really amplifies the crisis that we're in and the work that needs to be done. I attended the inaugural meeting for the Comox Valley Regional District yesterday, and I just want to congratulate our councillor, Will Cole-Hamilton, who is now the chair of the Comox Valley Regional District. So congratulations, really appreciate it. And for those that don't know, Will does a zillion things. So I just really appreciate the work that you put in. I also was part of a Rotary presentation last night. And again, the shelter was one of the biggest issues that came up. And on some more positive notes, not that Rotary wasn't positive, but I have been giving talks to schools across the valley for many years, and I actually gave a talk to the Immigrant Welcome Center class on civics, which was very exciting and probably for a variety of reasons, probably way more engaged than high school students sometimes are. And it was a great experience and looking forward to doing that again. And then lastly, on Sunday, we did have the Comox Valley Child Development Telethon. And again, very inspired by our community that we're able to raise over $150,000 to go towards our community. So with that, I don't see anybody else who had anything else, so we'll go into our in-camera resolution. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous, and we are adjourned.